Finally back, Mike. Welcome back from the cruise. As always, myself, Kevin Bunk, and Michael Merlo, we are live on Tuesday mornings, a little earlier today. As Mike, do you have work in the afternoon?
I've work at 11:30, so
duty calls
tight
for Mike, so we had to get this out of the way here at 10. Very good job staying true to his show, getting it on the Tuesday morning. How was your cruise?
Oh, the cruise was unbelievable. I got an unbelievable tan. I don't know if you could tell this one.
Oh, you look great. You look really
tan. It's crazy the tan I got. But it was beautiful. The weather was beautiful. The stops were beautiful. The boat was beautiful. Spoiled like no other person. It was just a lot of eating, a lot of drinking. I feel gross even still, but we're getting back to normal life.
I'm really happy for you that you enjoyed that. I'm happy that you got your tan. And summer's wrapping up here, unfortunately, but not always a bad thing. There's silver linings to that. And we are in the home stretch. I think we have no vacations planned here. We should be good to go. The Tuesday schedule might change once classes start for us with the Burrows, so we'll see how that goes. We'll also have the Sunday recap coming back and being kind of renovated, for lack of a better word, and we're going to be going all in on that. Last year, it was kind of just a startup for us. And at BTL, what we wanted to do with Football Sundays, and the two of us get on the live at about 7:30 on a Sunday night after all the first and second slate of games are played, right before the Sunday night football game, and we talk about all those, and then we do our short segments during the week about the Sunday night game and the Monday night game. But stay tuned for the Sunday recap first episode, because it's going to be more of a Sunday preview, the first episode, once we do one before the football season, or it'll be week one. So just keep an eye open for that. Mike, what's new and exciting?
Francisco Alvarez is new and exciting last night, but I'm very excited for what you're mentioning about football. I can't wait. It's tough for me to look at the two things, because obviously you have the Yankees in the middle of a huge race for the division, and the Mets, in the middle of a big wild card race. They're right in the thick of things. And I think now really should be, especially with the Riley injury, I mean, they should absolutely see this as an opportunity, with all the injuries Atlanta's had, to be that third wild card team. But either way, I can't I'm so excited for football, but still having to realize and hone in on baseball right now with both of our teams in the middle of a playoff push. So it's an exciting next couple of months. You're right. There's no more vacations. We're straight through into school. A lot of content coming out, and I'm very excited for that.
Yeah, Francisco Alvarez, all-time pimp job walk-off last night, 3-0 count. I'm going to just say this, and I'm not trying to be Debbie Downer here, but I didn't think that home run was far enough for that pimp job, dude, because that thing was coming down a little bit, and I was like, is that going to get out of the stadium? I mean,
I was saying the same exact thing. I said, I was watching with my dad, and I was like, all right. He was so confident that it was gone. I'm like, it's gone. And Cohen's reaction, I think, was what really got me, because Cohen called it as if it was a no. So it obviously perfect view from where they're seated. So that gave me the assurance it was out. Bat, I mean, it sort of looked like, it's in the air, and he kind of got under it.
Yeah, and that was hanging at the peak, was hanging at its peak, and I'm watching, and I'm like, did that ball actually get out the way Alvarez thinks it did? And the outfielders are converging on it, and you know what? I couldn't hear Gary Cohen. So that is where, for me, I was like, that looks like might be a pop fly. And I had my fantasy football draft last night, so the TV was on.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all Mets and Yankees fans. And the best part of that win for me is it helps the Yankees. The Yankees now have sole possession of first place. The Orioles with one more game played. And because of the Mets, it's now a loss. Was there nerves in that game? I mean, great outing from Peterson.
Mm-hmm.
He goes, 7 strong with 2 runs there? Was it 7
3
or 6?
runs. It was 7, but he should have been taken out, and we'll get to that in a second. You finished your point, though.
But overall, very good start from Peterson, and you don't want to waste that. And then you have Buto comes in and Diaz. So when you use all 3 of them, you have the good start, and then your 2 best relievers. I don't know if you want to call Diaz that, but when you have that situation, and it's a tie game, I don't care who you're playing because the Mets are good enough. The Mets are not the White Sox. The Mets are not the A's. You have to win that game last night. And Alvarez came through in a big way and gets him the victory in the bottom of the ninth.
It's a tough 10-game stretch here. I mean, you have Baltimore, you have Arizona, and San Diego. I don't think that's in order, but either way, it's a really tough 10-game stretch that's going to define the season. And you're up in this game 3-0. You're up in this game 3-1. You're leading most of the way. They give that lead back in the 7th with the balk from Peterson, and the next pitch he gives up a bomb to Urias. So that would have been a really bad loss. They also, I don't know if you didn't hear this. So the Mets went from 4th inning to the home run without a ball in fair territory. They either struck out, walked, or fouled out from the 4th inning to the 9th inning when Alvarez hit that homer. And this is a trend now with this team. Even when they score a lot of runs, they're scoring the runs in the 3rd or 4th inning and then going cold the rest of the game. So it's like they're having this mid-game slump every night, but they find a way to come through last night. That's big. And for Alvarez, who struggled so much, that is such a big home run for him and hopefully gets him going a little bit down the stretch. But there were nerves, Kevin. And I'll say this, Mendoza has been great, but a couple of rookie manager mistakes. We want to talk Sunday, having McNeil bunt. I could not disagree more with that move. And last night, keeping Peterson in after he gives up the leadoff double because it was sketchy. He didn't have to bring him out for the 7th. He could have went Buto for 2 and Diaz for the 9th, right? That Buto is you can use Buto like that. And he keeps Peterson out there. He gives up a leadoff double, I think, on the 1st or 2nd pitch of the 7th. I would have had his ass out of that game, and instead it spirals and they lose the lead in the 7th.
Did you watch the McNeil at bat on Sunday?
I did.
Okay, so the bunt, I don't agree with the bunt, as that's the first point. But if you're going to bunt, why did McNeil take the 2nd pitch of that at bat?
Yeah, it was right down the middle.
Strike of that at bat.
Yeah,
it's a 92-mile-an-hour fastball right down the middle.
Yeah, he's got to listen. There's two sides to this, okay? I understand why he has him bunting. I don't agree with it because McNeil's been arguably your best hitter since the second half started, right? He is at 1,000 OPS in the second half of the season. So I personally, with 2 guys on, nobody out, would have not bunted Jeff McNeil. I would have trusted McNeil to hit the ball to the outfield and either get the guy over or hit a single and tie the game. That's me. That's how I feel about Jeff right now. But the other side of it is, hey, Jeff, get the goddamn bunt down and get the 2 guys in scoring position. That's it's tough. But I wouldn't have bunted.
But if you give McNeil 3 swings and I'm saying don't make him bunt, give him the chance to swing at all 3 strikes, he's probably going to do that job anyways, at the least, right? The way he's hitting right now, which is what you're saying. He's at least going to move him over with a grounder or move him over with a pop-up. And that's how McNeil's been hitting. That's been true to McNeil's career over the last few years. I know he's had the down years, but that's a guy I trust to get the job done anyways. So I'll take the chance of him hitting a single while also the risk of him striking out or not moving the runner over, because that at-bat was horrible, and that ends up being a bad loss for the Mets on Sunday in a wild card race that's so tight right now. I mean, I posted about it yesterday. I talked about it in the bunker, the whole first half of that episode. It's about a 15-minute episode. It's actually the first 2/3 of it. I speak about the parity in the league, and that also says there's a really competitive race going on here, because there's about 18 teams right now vying for a playoff spot. And the Mets are not in a playoff spot right now, but a game and a half back of a Braves team where everything is going wrong for them this year, and they're just surviving at this point. And right behind you, you have the Giants. So it's not this easy race for the Mets, even though we think they're the best team of the 3, objectively, too. I don't know how you can look at these 3 teams and say the Braves in their current state or the Giants are better than the Mets. I can't get there, and I don't have any bias to put the Mets there. They're in a really close race, unlike the American League wildcard race, and the Mets need these wins. So Sunday was a tough loss, but great bounce back yesterday for the Mets. And I'm telling you, just the vibes of Alvarez hitting that, and you're an Alvarez hater, so we know you probably were, part of you.
I was so happy. Believe me.
immediately fist, like I wish it was someone else, Not,
I will say this: the clip was sent to me about 3 times, though. That clip I put out of Alvarez, why does
Yeah.
Alvarez get a break? That clip was sent about 3 times to me last night. But yeah,
Well, that's what happens when you make enough of these clips. Eventually,
Yeah.
they come back, and you're gonna have those moments, and you're happy that that's the one that people are sending back to, because
yeah, they won the game.
and you're rooting for Alvarez. We all know that you're not an Alvarez hater. He looks like you, so
I look like him. It's my
the
guy.
only professional athlete that will ever look like Michael Merlo, and we need this to stick.
Yeah, I'm rooting for him though, 100%. He's an exciting player when he's on, and he had such a great stretch in July. It's like, come on, man, or June, whenever it was June.
The Mets could be, and last night's one of those wins and moments that make you feel like it. Oh, also, before I get here, I don't want to forget this point. Did you see him not touch home plate?
Yes.
And you see Marte behind him.
He brought him back.
So Marte brought him back, but when Alvarez goes to step on the plate, Marte the whole way up the third baseline is watching his feet.
Yeah.
Which, I guess, veteran move to watch the guy's feet. That's a guy who's been around and seen some things in baseball. So Marte is just watching his feet. And I don't know who was standing to the left of Marte, but Alvarez jumps over the plate, and Marte looks to his left, and he looks at the guy, and he's like, it was one of those looks.
Really?
And then he runs after Alvarez and tells him to go touch the plate. But either way, I mean, that just would have been the most Mets loss
all-time Met, because
that would have been the all-time Mets loss, worse than the drop pop-up against the Yankees. That would have been the all-time Mets loss.
Because I saw him go back and touch it, and when he stomped on it, I'll put it in quotes, stomped on it, it looked like he missed it, but
he might have gotten it a little bit.
I think he got it a little bit.
I think his heel landed on the end of the plate, but either way, Marte's got to make sure that that's a win for the Mets.
Yeah,
and
good for Marte.
It was a win for the Mets, and maybe a turning point here, but they do have a tough stretch coming up. You're right. And this point in the season, to have a stretch like this, Baltimore, and then 4 at San Diego, and then 3 at the Diamondbacks, you get your relief after that against the White Sox. That's a tough end of the month here.
It's imperative that they win this series here at home.
They have to win this series. After winning the first game, it's a must-win series now.
Mm-hmm.
And let's be honest with Baltimore. Baltimore is not there. I view them the same way I view the Yankees. This team is not the team from the first half of the year. We've now seen a large portion of the season where Baltimore's still tough to beat, yes, but Rutschman is not playing great, and Henderson is not playing great. Their bullpen is not good, and their starting pitching isn't good outside of Burns. So Baltimore's very beatable. And now that you've won that first game, you have to take this series.
I would rather play, might come back to bite me in the ass. I'd rather play Baltimore than the 2 teams that they have to go out west to play right now. This coming week.
Oh, I totally agree.
Baltimore at home. This is a winnable series. I don't care. Like you mentioned, I don't care what this team did in the first half. I don't care what their record looks like. They are beatable. This is a beatable baseball team.
If you go tonight, you get an OMG foam finger.
I'm not going tonight. I'm going tomorrow. The day game. I'm going to the day game tomorrow.
That's nice. 1:00 game on a Wednesday afternoon towards the end of the summer. That's a good deal.
Nothing to do.
And then, I think the Padres and D-backs are, you call me crazy, I think they're the 2 best teams in the league right now.
In the entire league.
In the entire major leagues.
I think you're a little crazy.
The Padres and Diamondbacks are the 2 best teams.
They're playing like the 2 best teams.
They are.
There's obviously a difference. I'll tell you this, man. We could talk about it in a little bit. The Astros are finally going on that run I thought they'd go on for the last 4 months. They're finally on that run. And they got Verlander back either tonight or last night.
9-1 in their last 10. And I tell you, listen, they're 5 games back of the 1 seed, which is held by the Yankees right now, and really just the AL East winner has the 1 seed. Cleveland is a game back of it. 5 games back for Houston, or 4.5 games. No one would be shocked if they get it. over the next 5 weeks if they grab this 1 seed.
They could very easily get it.
4.5 games is not far when you compare the way that the Yankees, Guardians, and Orioles over their last 10 are all 5-5, and they have losing records over the last month and a half. And the Astros are rolling. So 4.5 games is not a lot because the way they're playing, by tomorrow night, that's 3.5. By Saturday night, that's going to be 2.5. So Houston is here as we've expected. And
gun to my
scary.
head, they go to the World Series. And I've been saying it for weeks now.
I'd have to
I know
agree.
we mentioned Cleveland last week. 2 weeks ago when we did the show, I think we both said Cleveland or Houston.
Yeah.
And I would back off of Cleveland and I would put all my chips on the table for Houston.
I would too. The Houston is rolling right now, man. It's for the Orioles and the Yankees both. That is a scary reality. Obviously, for the Yankees, they can't beat them in the playoffs, and that's just where that argument ends. But for Baltimore, you have this young, inexperienced team that got swept out of the playoffs last year. What do you think happens in year 2? Right now, you're a wild card team. What do you think happens in year 2? You have to go to Houston.
They're not any better than they were last season. I don't know if that's a crazy statement to make.
No,
but
it's not.
Experience. This team is not as complete.
The
bullpen's not good. Their starting rotation outside of Corbin Burns, the best pitcher in baseball, not good. So you really trust this team with young offensive players, good offensive players, by the way. Colton Cowser, really good players. Obviously, you mentioned Gunnar and Adley, but I don't trust this team. I can't trust this team at all.
But when Gunnar and Adley are having bad second halves and they haven't shown us anything in the playoffs yet, I know they've been once, but they didn't win a game and they didn't hit. How do I sit here and say Gunnar and Adley are even big threats in the playoffs? Now, that might come back to bite me if Baltimore goes on the run because it's going to be on the backs of those guys. But at this point in time, I can't sit here and say this Orioles team is just going to run the gauntlet here, their first year of being a true contender. I mean, last year, they were very good. They won the division, but it was their first year on the scene. So a lot of times, those first-year teams, you don't expect to make any sort of a run, and they didn't. And now it's their second year here. You knew they were going to be here. They added Corbin Burns in the offseason, the biggest offseason move you can ever remember the Orioles making, really since the Chris Davis contract. But this is so much bigger because it is the best pitcher in Major League Baseball you acquired. And now you're saying, okay, this Orioles team is here to start the season. They're ready to go. They might win the World Series. They should definitely be in the mix. If they're not in the mix, there's a problem. And they are in the mix. Things have gone as expected for the most part for Baltimore. And they're here. And, I don't see them getting it done. I just don't think that they're good enough this year in their first year of true contention.
Yeah, and it makes you every team has done this, so I'm not just putting this on the Yankees or Baltimore, but you look at the NL East, right? And Atlanta before the Riley injury had gotten back in this race because the top team in the league had struggled, right, in Philadelphia. And not that the Dodgers have struggled, but the Dodgers have both these teams on their asses, the Padres and the Diamondbacks. The Yankees and the Orioles kind of did the same thing that the Phillies did, was they went through a mid-season slump like no other. And if one of these teams did not go on that slump, if Clay Holmes does not blow 10 saves and he only blows 5 saves, the Yankees have a 5-game lead in this division. Or the Orioles, if they didn't slump, have a 5-game lead in this division. So I think both of these teams, especially Baltimore, should feel good about the fact that they're still in it, but not so good that in any other season, they're probably just looked at as the top wildcard team and not a division winner. We thought this race was going to be so much better than it has become. It really hasn't been that great of a race because of the way. Do they get to they're not to 100 wins. They're going to get to 90, 95 wins, that the winner of this division, when we thought this was going to be a powerhouse team, number 1 seed winner. And the loser of this division was going to be stuck with the 4 seed with the second best record in the league. That might not be the case now with the way Cleveland's played, with the way even Kansas City's played, with the way we see now Houston coming into their own.
Well, the Yankees have been so bad, and this is not an excuse for the Yankees because it's the problem that they put themselves with. If Clay Holmes saves, a third or half of his blown saves over the last 2.5 months, the Yankees, the division's over, and so is the 1 seed race.
Yeah.
Because he's blown about 11, 12 games. So imagine the Yankees having 4 or 5 more wins right now. How far that goes, being the only team in the league with more than 74 wins. They'd have 78, 79 if Clay Holmes saved half of the games he's blown. And that's a problem the Yankees stuck themselves with because they got lazy and pinched pennies with the bullpen. And Brian Cashman thought that Matt Blake is really just some magician that makes pitchers better than they are. And that's not the situation. You gave them crappy pitchers and the pitchers suck. And they're in a spot now where you're right. This powerhouse division race, it's a half game separated, which we expected the whole year for it to be within 2 or 3 games all season long. And it is, but now they just don't feel like championship teams. It just, the expectation has been so flipped on these two squads. You're right. That's a good point. It's still close, but not what we had expected at all.
Tough situation to come in 1-0, right? I mean, you're the closer, you're expected to shut the door. But did you have any lick of confidence he's coming in on Sunday and closing that game?
No, and I got to say something about Aaron Boone and this analytics situation on Sunday evening. Now, Mike, baseball, I've always thought is a more simple game than it's made to be right now. And I'm not alone in that. It's become almost too talked about to the point where I don't even want to hear about it anymore. And I just want to watch. Mm-hmm. But Sunday night, Josh Young is up. Is Josh Young? His brother's on the Rangers.
I think it's Josh Young is the brother on the Rangers.
Josh Young's on the Rangers.
Yeah.
Maybe Jace or something.
Yeah, something like that.
So either way, Young comes up. He's got like 4 hits in his career. Left-handed batter. Holmes, we know, is, even when he's bad, this is a guy that keeps the ball on the ground. Mm-hmm. Sinker ball pitcher, ground ball, one of the best ground ball producers of pitchers in Major League Baseball. And if you have a right-handed sinker pitcher against a left-handed hitter with 4 career hits and a traditional contact hitter, he's probably hitting a ground ball to the left side of the infield. So what are we going to do? We're going to take Anthony Volpe away from shortstop, open a hole that you can drive an 18-wheeler through on the left side, and we're going to let him hit a ground ball off the end of the bat to shortstop to tie the game. That's just bad managing of a... I mean, that's like easy knowledge of physics. I don't think there's an analytic that can prove me wrong that a left-handed batter is probably going to hit Clay Holmes to the left side of the infield, going the other way with his outside sinker. And also, who the hell calls an outside sinker with the whole left side of the infield open against a left-handed batter? So much simple knowledge was glossed over in that inning of that game. It just pissed me off so much. And then icing on the cake, Mark Leiter sucks. What an awful deadline move. He's not even in shape. He looks like a loser when he's on the mound. And it's one thing to look like a loser, and then to pitch like one on top of it, it really makes you one. He's got a 7 ERA almost since joining the Yankees. He comes in to the game against Philly. He flies in. He gets there the 3rd inning. Shuts the door on the Phillies in that game. Mm-hmm. Awesome outing. You're like, all right, Cashman might have found something here. And he was good with Chicago for the 6 weeks before we got him. He was rolling. Yeah. Now, oh my God, this guy comes in. He didn't even get an out on Sunday night. Didn't even get an out. Easiest win of the Tigers franchise history. Oh, they just had to show up for 2 innings. The Yankees lineup is ultimately to blame, though, because they have 2 runs in their last 20 innings. 1 on a wild pitch, and 1 was the ghost runner in extra innings. So how can you blame any pitchers, really, when the offense is just not producing any runs?
Yeah, and it's a tough road trip because you have 2 teams that you have the worst team in baseball, right? Maybe baseball history, and a team that is out of it in Detroit, and you go 3-3 on the road trip. It's a great point that you make about the shifting. Somebody was off, right? There was some sort of miscommunication with that ninth inning there. And it's like you don't even give Holmes a chance, right? Because I don't even know if you could put all that on Clay Holmes unless he's missing to the outside part of the plate with the sinker to the left-handed hitter. But if that's what's being called, like how can you blame Holmes? And then you can't blame Holmes for the fact that they shifted.
I'm gonna just pull this up and get it on our stream here. It's a Yankees bullpen stat since May 20th. So just give me one moment. But it goes to the point of how is Clay Holmes still the designated closer for the Yankees? Yeah. I'm fine with Clay Holmes becoming a seventh inning guy. Truthfully, I don't think Holmes is bad enough to just DFA him, not use him. That's just reactionary to say he's that bad. That's reactionary. Clay Holmes still is a good relief pitcher. But how is he your designated closer? It makes no sense here. I'm just getting this.
Who are you moving into that spot, Luke Weaver?
Well, here's your candidates for it in this tweet from Max Goodman. Yankees bullpen since May 20th. Tommy Kahnle has been lights out. He would be the guy I'd go to. Veteran who's been awesome. Jake Cousins and Tim Hill have been very good, but low leverage relievers. So you don't want to just jump them into a high leverage spot. Even Michael Tonkin, I'd give a chance to. The bottom three, you cannot give a chance to because they have been bad in leverage situations over the last 3 months. So how is Clay Holmes with a 4.8 ERA and 30 innings pitched since May 20th closing every tight game for the Yankees?
Yeah, you're not giving yourself a chance.
Meanwhile, Tommy Kahnle's got a sub-2 ERA since really the whole season because he just came back from injury right before that and had a few bad outings. And then once he got his groove and got into a rhythm this year, he was great. And he's been great for them. He puts guys on base, sure, but he's been awesome for them. And Holmes has just been, he's a mess. He seems like mentally he's just a head case in ninth innings now because of how many blown saves there's been. It's not good right now for the Yankees in that spot. And in the whole bullpen, Mike, that I just show you this. I'll pull it back up. That's not a good bullpen.
No.
Kahnle, Cousins, Tim Hill, Michael Tonkin, Luke Weaver, Clay Holmes, and Mark Leiter. That's not a good pen.
I saw this stat yesterday, though. Or 2 days ago. I think the Texas Rangers blew 33 saves last year. Does that make you feel any better?
No. Because here's why it doesn't make me feel better. And that's a good stat. That's a good stat for the conversation. Doesn't make me feel better because the Rangers in the postseason had dominant starting pitching. Do I trust Garrett Cole and Marcus Stroman and Carlos Rodon, Nestor Cortez, Luis Gil? Do I trust these guys to have a great postseason? Not at all. And maybe they do. Did I trust Nathan Eovaldi? I trusted Eovaldi too. Eovaldi has been lights out in big games for the last 7 years since he was on the Red Sox.
Yeah.
But Jordan Montgomery, my history with him. Didn't see that coming.
Yeah.
Even Andrew Heaney. Andrew Heaney pitched well out of the pen in the postseason for Texas. So they got, I don't want to say lucky, they had guys show up in the playoffs, and I don't think that happens with the Yankees only because the Yankees have been there so many times with these guys, and they don't show up. Also, in the case of the Rangers, they mashed the World Series. Corey Seager elevates his game. An all-star player in the regular season elevates to an all-time great in the postseason. Adolis Garcia was great in the postseason. Everyone hit for Texas. Aaron Judge, I can't expect him to even be the same player he is in the regular season, let alone elevate. So I can't trust this Yankees team at all to bring their best performances and close out games in the playoffs.
Yeah, and this team is just so top. I mean, we've talked about it, but they're so top heavy to a point where it might crumble for them in the postseason because, right now we joke about the fact, why pitch the Judge? Why pitch the Judge? When you get to a playoff series where you have some of these guys in this lineup, they are not like they're not going to pitch to him. They're just not going to pitch to Aaron Judge. They'll deal with Soto. Soto's fantastic. He's having an unbelievable season, but they'll pitch to Soto. They'll pitch around him. They'll put those two guys on base. They'll do the Met treatment. They will just put those guys on base and deal with the rest. they're not going to get beat by those guys in the playoffs. So if you think it's bad now where they're intentionally walking Judge, I remember that clip from Kay a couple of weeks ago. Jesus Christ, could he sound any more like a Yankee crybaby? I don't know did you see that?
Which one?
Where they talked about where he was asking Passan if there was anything they could do about intentionally walking Judge.
Oh yeah.
Come on.
Dude,
Come on.
Welcome to every big season in the history of baseball.
Like, he's basically complaining about how there's nothing they could do when they intentionally walk them, and it's a detriment to the fans that you don't get to see the best player at bat. Like, okay, you're right, but it's just they're not going to be beat by him, and it's going to be so much worse in the postseason.
And honestly, as a fan who watches him every day, I want to see Judge hitting every at bat.
Yeah,
but the guy's on base percentage is 463. His OPS is 1100. You think the walks don't help him out? They don't. Those numbers are legendary. He already did the 62 home run thing. So if he hits 60 again, like, cool, but these numbers are just ridiculous. His on base is 40 points better than 2022. His OPS right now is 55 points better than 2022. He's having a better season. He's going to have more RBIs than 2022. You're not an RBI guy, but he's only 20 away from his 22 number.
Right.
And that's because Soto's hitting in front of him. But this is a better season than he had in 2022 so far. The way it's trending, it's going to be a better year. So I don't really care about that because you keep walking this guy, he's going to end up with a 500 on base.
So the only two guys in recent history you can compare Aaron Judge to, and they're very different. They're two very different players, but there's only two guys in recent history you can really compare the guy to. And one guy is Pujols, right? Pujols gets overlooked here. Pujols, not the power hitter Judge is, but everything else, the on base, the batting average that we're seeing now, and the OPS number is very similar to what Judge is doing this season in the first, 5-7 years of his career, right? With St. Louis. So Pujols is one of them. And then to a more extreme level, Bonds, right? Bonds had, those incredible 1,1200 OPS years, but even before that, the 1,000 OPS, 1,100 OPS seasons, those seasons are comparable to what Judge is doing. Now, Bonds on a different level in terms of power numbers, but actually not really. I can't even say that because Bonds had one season where he hit over 50 home runs. So I can't even say that. The seasons are very comparable to what Bonds did and what Pujols was doing.
Yeah, I'm pulling up Pujols stats now because he is overlooked in this whole Judge is the best player since Bonds argument because Pujols is maybe not worse than Bonds was. Like Pujols was his run production, pulling it up, way better average hitter.
Yep.
Pujols. So he's hitting his average. I don't even want to do career average. It got so dragged down, but that 10-year stretch for him with St. Louis, his worst batting average is 299, and then his next worst is 312. So the average is ridiculous. Led the league in average in 2003, 359 average. And his 2003 season, he 43 home runs, 124 RBIs, 359 average. His on base was 440, and his OPS was 1,100. So that's not a worse year than anything Judge has done.
Talk about getting robbed. 2006 MVP race. Jesus Christ.
Who's second? Who won that?
Howard.
Oh my God.
WAR 3.3 points lower. All right, he had 9 less home runs and 12 less RBIs. His slugging's higher.
This is a serious production race, though. 58 homers, 149 ribbies for Howard, and Pujols had 49 and 137.
Yeah, and then Berkman in second and third.
And Howard hit 58 home runs, and Pujols had a better slug.
Yeah. He had to hire everything on the slash line. I mean, he got robbed. He got robbed.
We got robbed of this MVP, man. Wow.
Nah, the guy that got robbed is Beltran. Look at that. Look at that season from Beltran in 06.
Beltran, of course.
Look at my guy Carlos Beltran there.
Beltran.
Come on.
Yeah, his war was 3 points higher than Howard's too.
Yeah, it's
Philly
bias. That's what that is.
You know why though? I wonder if Howard played 162 games at first base.
Probably did with those WAR numbers.
Because that's what we're seeing with Judge and Bobby Witt right now. Bobby Witt might finish with a higher F WAR because he plays defense every day. They're resting Judge almost every game now and giving him the DH spot.
Which is a good thing.
So Judge's defensive WAR is like negative 0.1.
Bobby Witt's awesome.
Bobby Witt's awesome.
Something I thought about at work yesterday in the car. So a couple months ago, we had that discussion of, well, who would you rather have, Bobby Witt or Gunnar Henderson? And I think, for me, I was on Gunnar. I've been a Gunnar fan, but that conversation split like 50-50 on who you'd rather have, right? 2 months ago. A lot of people would say Witt, a lot of people would say Gunnar, and you're not going to argue. Right now, I think, is it even a question?
No, not even close.
Is it even a question right now with the way Bobby Witt's played?
Yeah, it's not even close.
He's a better defender. I mean, for me at least, Gunnar projects as a third baseman going forward in his career. Bobby Witt is a Gold Glove caliber shortstop for the next 10 years. Not even close who you'd rather have at shortstop at this point.
Yeah.
And this is from a guy that picked Gunnar two months ago. Not even 2 months ago. I picked Gunnar.
Yeah, you picked Gunnar. And Gunnar at the time, I think I was leaning. We got to roll that clip back.
I think you leaned Witt.
I think I leaned Witt in the slightest margin. Like one of those, I'd be so happy with either player type of arguments. I don't have a stance here really. But now it's definitely Witt. I don't think you can find a person in the country that's not an Orioles fan that wouldn't take Witt.
No.
Stuff. So I'm glad we had that convo because it's come up the last 2 episodes and it's been a common theme throughout the year. And now who would have thought Witt would have pulled away like this? I mean, maybe Witt ends up being an MVP finalist and Henderson doesn't, but Henderson wouldn't have because Soto was better. Something like that. That's why you wouldn't have a top 3. But now Gunnar might not finish top 5 in MVP or top 7. He's just fallen to average over the last month and a half.
Witt might not even be second with the way Soto's played. I mean,
Witt might not be second, but it's the defense for him. It's the defense for him that's going to shoot him up above Soto. And listen, man, he might win the MVP.
Who?
Witt.
No, he's not.
He might win the MVP.
He's not going to win it.
I don't know. With the stolen bases and the defense, and he's going to win the batting title, he might get the MVP.
New York bias against it, against, the
possibly
anti-New York.
And Altuve in 2017 had the same situation happen.
Yeah, but it wasn't a historic season.
No,
Judge
it was also Judge's first year. So he wasn't, in the mind of the voters too heavily. And he didn't have the hype, but the hype was still massive, don't get me wrong. But Altuve won because he had the great year of average. He had over 200 hits. And they used strikeouts and stolen bases as a reasoning for Altuve's slight edge over Judge.
As good as Judge was in his rookie year, he was still a slightly flawed player. You mentioned the strikeouts and the chase rates and things like that. There's not a flaw in Aaron Judge's game right now that you can argue against him. That's the problem. And I guess you could say the same thing for Bobby Witt. But when a guy has an 1,100 OPS, listen, Judge could have a massive slump here, right, in the next month of the season and take himself out. He has to continue at this almost historic pace to win, which is crazy because that's the pace that Witt's on. But if he continues this, and it's the same, even the way it looks right now, you can't tell me you're giving this to Bobby Witt. You just can't.
I'm not, but I'll say this about 2017. I remember when Altuve won the MVP thinking Judge had a better season, but the best player got it. And that goes to what you were saying about, Judge was flawed. And Altuve was so polished in his prime, cheating, so it helped. But I remember thinking at that time, it's an MVP I'm okay with him not getting because Altuve was the best player in the league. And even though he didn't statistically have a better season, he was the best player. And since then, I've grown a little upset about it because we know they were cheating at home.
Yeah.
And I still think Altuve, take that season out of his career, he's a first ballot Hall of Famer in my mind. I think Altuve is one of the great players of our generation. Yep. And it stinks that I wish he didn't cheat, and I wish he had the same exact stats and the World Series ring, and he didn't cheat. Because I was okay losing to that Houston team because I really liked them when it happened.
Well,
it's one of those losses where, yeah, you respect them a lot. It's one of those losses where you just say, Yankees first year on the scene, and they lost to a really great team, fun team. The year after sucked, losing to Boston. That was the year that pissed me off. But losing to Altuve that year at the time didn't mean much to me. It didn't upset me too much. Now it bothers me a lot because we know he had a huge advantage when it came to hitting that high average and leading the league in hits. And his splits at home, he was great. So Altuve that year was the best player in baseball, but you know what? This year it's Judge. And I can't justify Witt being a better player, but I'm not a voter. So I don't have a say in that.
It'll be Judge. I don't think you have
to better be Judge. But we still have 5 weeks left here, right? It's close enough where if Judge hits a 3-week slump and Witt doesn't, then it's Witt's award.
Yes.
So it's not far enough, which speaks a lot to Witt's season because Judge is having such an historic year for it to even be close. It should be like the Ohtani race last year, where Ohtani didn't even play the last month of the season and he won, and he should have won. Mm-hmm. And it should be that type of distance, and it's not because Witt has been that good.
Yeah.
All right, you want to do trivia here?
Yeah, but I want to ask you this one question before we start trivia. It's not a trivia question. It's just my friend Trevor texted me, diehard Met fan. He texted me this morning, and he asked me this question. And I think I have an answer, but I want to hear your answer first. So, if the Mets won the World Series in 2015, where would Cespedes rank amongst position players in Met history?
Wow. That's a great question. Let's see. Well, he wouldn't be first on that team. Obviously, no. Wright would be. I always forget Wright was on that team. He wouldn't be second either. I think Murphy would have been second.
Okay.
In Mets legacy. Played way longer there, and he had that postseason run for Murphy if they won that World Series.
Is enough. Yeah. They're retiring Murphy's number if they win that World Series. I think it's that much.
So Piazza would be behind. Just pulling up the list here so I don't forget anyone. He'd be behind Wright, Strawberry. Obviously, I just said Murphy. He'd go behind Keith, I think. Would he go behind Beltran with the ring? Or would Cespedes jump Beltran with the ring?
I think I think Beltran was such a good player.
He was. He was a better player, and he was a longer Met. But
the ring
goes a long way. Cespedes.
It's tough to legendary. It's tough to talk about this, right? Without, what's the word I'm looking for? Without actually having it, you know what I mean? Without actually having it, it's tough to place this.
But I think it would have meant a ridiculous amount. So I'd say he'd probably be like 5th or 6th. You have Wright, Strawberry. I can't put him above Hernandez.
Yeah, I agree.
Piazza?
Piazza's over him.
Even without a ring. He got there, and I think Piazza was just a way better player as a deadline pickup. Like, Cespedes wasn't a better player than more than 7 or 8 of these. Like, if we're going to put him 7th or 8th, he's still not the 7th or 8th most talented player in franchise history, but the ring would elevate him and the excitement would elevate him. He was a deadline pickup that way over exceeded the expectations for a year or two. But then, do we have all the history after? I don't like the way Cespedes finished with the Mets.
No, it was terrible.
His last stretch was awful with the Mets. So I don't know where I could put him. Like, could you put him ahead of Mookie Wilson, a guy like that who, you know what, Cespedes?
Could you put him ahead of Brandon Nimmo right now?
Stretch was than who?
Nimmo. We talked about Nimmo.
Nimmo wouldn't have had a ring on that team, right? He wasn't a bench player.
No.
So, I mean, yeah, but not for long.
Nimmo would have passed him.
Nimmo would pass him because
Lindor would pass
I don't know if Cespedes had a ring. Would Mets fans hold him in a higher regard? We weren't alive for 86. You know, we've seen the documentaries, we've seen everything, but would Mets fans hold him in a higher regard than Mookie Wilson? No, I don't think so.
I think so.
I don't. Okay, so that's probably that point where we're going to be different about it. Is once you get to that 8th, 9th, 10th guy where Mookie Wilson roughly would be. In position players too, no pitchers.
Yeah, we're not adding pitchers to this.
Howard Johnson?
I think it's tough because he's on that team.
Yeah, I just don't think fans, because that 86 team to Mets fans and to baseball fans who saw it is just like an infatuation.
But that 2015 team would have been a different kind of love because that team, yeah, they came back in that series. But remember, that's one of the greatest teams of all time. So they feel like underdogs winning that game. But as I literally look at the picture of Wilson, I have a picture of Wilson. I have a picture of the 86 team right here, like as a cartoon. And then I have a picture of Wilson, a signed picture of Wilson and Buckner. And it's the famous picture of the ball rolling down the line. I'll show it to you right here. But it's
great. That's a great pick.
It's tough to differentiate how the fans would feel because that was an underdog story in 15. So Cespedes is the reason why that team before the postseason got to where they were.
Yeah,
now, took a crap in the postseason, and I think that's a big thing too. He was not good in that postseason outside of the series. Outside of one series.
That's why I think Murphy would jump him on that squad just because of that postseason run. You won't look back. The documentary doesn't start with Cespedes. It starts with Murphy.
No, it does though. It starts with Cespedes because it
starts with Cespedes in the regular season, but when you're talking playoffs, it's Murphy in the playoffs.
Yes. It's Murphy DeGrom. Actually, it's Murphy DeGrom.
That's a good question. That's a really good question where he would rank. I mean, Cespedes, how many games did he end up playing for the Mets? He plays 132 and 16 the year after the World Series. Played 57 for him after the deadline in 15. But then he plays 81 and 17 and 38 in 18, and then in 2020 he plays 8 in that 6-game season. I mean, after that World Series, he had 1 year where he really was a Met.
Yeah.
And it was an above-average season, 31 homers, 86 RBIs, 280 average. OPS was 884, so it's above average, but not stellar. Not MVP conversation on a typical year, but right outside, right outside the top 10 guys in the league, probably.
Yep.
That's a really good question.
I think he's bottom of the top 10.
It depends what generation you're from, I guess, too. Because I don't know if a lot of 86 fans would put him in front of a guy like Dykstra or in front of a guy like Carter.
No, they're not. They're not going to do that.
They're not going to do that. So that's a tough question. That's a really good question. And then we don't even think about the 69 team. I'm not even naming guys from the 69 team, really.
Right.
Because... But then you have like Edgardo Alfonso. He's a better player than Cespedes?
Yeah. Tough. But Cespedes in this scenario is a catalyst in getting this team to the World Series.
That's a tough question. Good question. Really good topic. We'll post that one and we'll see, maybe what the viewers think about it. You let us know on Instagram or TikTok what you think about that question. Where would Cespedes rank if he won the 2015 World Series? Where would he rank all-time Mets? So he wins the 2015 World Series, and everything after it plays out the same way.
I'm not going to change the history. The only history we're changing is their World Series champions.
Yeah, that's a really good one.
To grab my phone.
Yeah, that's a really good one. All right, so we'll jump in now after that good topic. We'll jump in our last segment of the day for trivia here. So you ready for trivia?
I'm ready for trivia.
All right, so I was really running out because I had good questions. I was telling Mike before the show, I had good questions. I had most blown saves on a Clay Holmes theme, and it was going to be over the last few years in Major League Baseball, not just Yankees, because you know who the two closers have been. And then I couldn't find that, so we were going to do Alvarez theme, most walk-off home runs in Mets history, which you also just cannot find anywhere. And then I am now at a place where I saw John Boy Media do this the other day with the Yankees, and it's most home runs in the Aaron Boone era. But I'm going to do, since the Mets have a new coach every year, I'm going to do most home runs in the Cohen era, which is since 2020. But I want to see if you can get the top 10.
Okay. In the
So
Cohen era, 2020.
Most home runs since 2020. Most home runs.
Okay. All right, ready?
Ready.
All right, so Alonso, obviously.
Yep.
Nimmo.
Yep.
Lindor.
Yep. Those are the top three.
Those are the top three. Awesome. Marte.
Yeah, he is 7.
McNeil.
He's 4.
McNeil's 4?
McNeil's 4.
Holy crap.
Nimmo has 74 home runs, and McNeil has 42. So there's a huge drop off.
Okay. So now we're getting to guys that are like 1-2 years. How about Conforto? Is he still on that list?
Conforto's 9.
Are there going to be some depressing names on here?
There's 2 that are like, can't believe how bad they were. And one of them is, I want to see if you can get them, because you might have blocked them out of your mind.
Jonathan VR.
No, he's 13th. He's 13th, but he's only 3 back of the 10th player. So it's
James McCann.
No, he actually is really far down. James McCann.
Okay, good. Thank God.
He's 19th.
Alvarez.
Alvarez is 5.
Yeah.
So you have the top 5. You need 6, 8, and 10.
Is Vientos on there yet?
He's 6.
That's so depressing.
Dude, that's bad. Like, in 4 years?
Beatty's not on there yet.
Mm-mm.
He'll never get on that. I shouldn't say yet.
No, when you're number 10, you might say Beatty's getting on this list.
God damn it. So I need 7. I need 8 and 10.
8 and 10. Neither are on the team.
None on the team. I said Conforto already. Damn, man.
Yeah, these are special Mets. Special Mets here.
Oh God. I can't even think of a name right now. Strubel Cabrera's been gone.
Really going down the rabbit hole for these two.
I'm really thinking of dark times at the moment. How about that? Just throw this out there. DeGrom's not on that list, right?
He was a better hitter than both.
He's a better hitter than most of these guys. Wow, I'm really blanking here. No, not Todd Father.
No, not Todd Father.
Ahmed Rosario?
No.
Dom Smith?
Dom Smith's number 10.
Jesus Christ.
Saidi number 8.
Oh God. Is number 8 like a rando? Like
not really.
Like, was he on the team for like a couple of years, or did he come up with the team?
He was a free agent on the team for 2 years.
Good Met? Not really.
Bad Met. Good player, bad Met.
I can't think of it.
You can do it.
Oh. Is it Vogelback?
No, he's 12th. But he's 12th, but he's tied for 11th. He and Canna are tied for 11th.
Canna, that's my guy. Oh, Eduardo Escobar.
Yes, Eduardo Escobar. That team sucks. This franchise is horrible. Most home runs since 2020, and you have 3 guys over 70 in 3.5 years because you have the 60-game season. So in now 3.5 years, we'll call it 3 years because we still have a month left of this year. Dom Smith is on your list. 21 home runs in 4 years gets you on this list. Now, let me see if I'm just being blind here. What is the Yankees?
Oh,
yeah, Yankees number 10 is 32 home runs, Anthony Volpe. That Mets suck.
What's Judge's number?
191. He's not far off from Alonso.
Why? What does Alonso have?
Alonso has 166. So, yeah, he's got 30 more.
Yeah.
25
No,
more.
I did. Yeah. All right. Yeah.
Full season. Stanton, 114. Luke Voigt's on there, 33. Gary Sanchez is still on there, 33.
It's not that bad.
It's not that bad, but it's bad. Let's see White Sox.
Oh, God.
That's the true test of how.
What does Eloy lead that one?
This one's dude, like this might be better than the Mets one, but no Alonso at the top. But there's no Alonso at the top, so it's not as good. But at the bottom of the list, up until the 10th player, it's Paul DeJong, and he's got 18, and he's tied with Benintendi. That's a disaster.
That's a disaster.
Before them, it's the middle portion is better than the Mets on this. But
not ideal.
Because Luis Robert is their home run leader since 2020.
It's not ideal for the Mets.
No, bad for the Mets. All right, you got anything else you want to hit here?
No, all good. Gonna head to work now. Nice long day. I'm going to see that Blake Lively chick flick tonight.
Oh, nice. It's all about domestic abuse. You're not gonna like that.
Oh, is it really like that?
Yeah, it's not like a rom-com.
I know. I love rom-coms. No, I love Blake Lively. No, she's getting canceled. She's my girl. I love her.
Yeah, they're trying to cancel her for nothing.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens. I don't know if it's for nothing, Kevin, but
it might be. I heard it was for nothing. I don't know what it's for though, so I shouldn't have said that.
They're definitely trying to get her. I don't know. I'll always stand by her though, even though she has no clue who I am. I'll stand by her forever.
The description: Lily Bloom moves to Boston to chase her lifelong dream of opening her own business. A chance meeting with charming neurosurgeon Ryle Kincaid soon sparks an intense connection, but as the two fall deeply in love, she begins to see sides of Ryle that remind her of her parents' relationship. When Lily's first love, Atlas Corrigan, suddenly re-enters her life, her relationship with Ryle gets upended, leaving her with an impossible choice. So it doesn't sound too much like domestic abuse.
Yeah. We'll see. I'm going with a friend too, and it's a male, so it's not even like I'm going with a girl.
It's a little suspicious.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens going to see this movie tonight.
Blake Lively backlash is in full swing, but she can still save her reputation, experts say.
Oh yeah, the cancel culture experts know that she could save herself.
No, she sounds like she's toast, man.
How about the DNC last night? You see that?
No.
What a clown show that was. Got Biden past his bedtime making an angry speech. He's all about the angry speeches now, apparently.
He is. He's fired up.
Who the hell was running the country last night?
Yeah, that's one of those nights you think about that.
We're attacked last night. What happens? Who's in charge?
Yeah, it's tough.
Pelosi?
If we were to be bombed. Who's running things? Well, the Obamas are running it anyways, Mike.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, Barack is back in the Situation Room.
Yeah, Barack's back there. He runs the whole White House. We know what's going on.
Thank God.
All right. That's where we got to end it. Barack's running the country.
Out.
We got to end it. It's usually not. That usually doesn't hit the air.
Yeah.
It's usually our off-air topic. All right. Thanks for watching. Make sure to tune to The Bunker every morning, roughly 10 a.m.
Hardline, probably
only.
big announcement this week or next week. So stay tuned for that.
Yes. Stay tuned. Big fall coming up. College football content, NFL content. And of course, once October hits, we're back in full swing with basketball as well. And we have, most importantly, huge month of baseball coming up, a huge 2 months of baseball coming up where we will keep the Burrows going for you. Stay tuned. Sunday recap coming soon. And that's Mike and myself as well as we just keep going through football season. We only sleep in February when there's no baseball or football on. That's it. So thanks for watching. We'll see you again next week. Same time, Tuesday, 10 or 11 a.m. probably. But we'll be back next week with that. And that may be the last week of Tuesday. So you want to stick around and watch for that announcement as well. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week.